Well, it may not be the X-Files parody we asked for, but it's definitely the fairy story that you never knew you wanted.
Fight the fairies! You fight those fairies!
Ooh, that's a hot mug, guy.
Hey guys, this is my review for episode 9 of Supernatural Season 6, Clap Your Hands If You Believe. Technically speaking, I can say that I am a little bit disappointed off the bat because it does start with the X-Files parody, with the credits introduction, and while it's kind of flimsily put together, it actually did give me a bit of hope because like, oh wow, they're finally really going to dive into the whole X-Files aspect of the show, which, as I've said in previous reviews, a lot of the people who worked on the show, one of them mainly being Kim Manners, were heavily involved in the effects and aspects of X-Files. So when this episode actually doesn't really turn out to be an X-Files episode, more so a parody of one, because it turns out that the aliens are actually fairies.
Nipples?
That disappointment is very quickly put aside because the fairy aspect of this episode is freaking hilarious. This is actually probably one of the funnier episodes, and there's a lot of effort put into it. Dean fighting the fairy in the hotel room and blowing it up in the microwave. Freaking Sam having the fight with the doc from Star Trek.
You've been hunting UFOs for over 3 decades, and you basically have no concrete data and 0 workable leads.
Well,
Have you considered the possibility that you suck?
Who's a leprechaun, apparently. I did find a lot of the humor in this episode quite good. I like it when Dean gets abducted and Sam tries to look for him. I can't find my brother anywhere.
It's fine. I mean, I've had time to adjust.
Did it happen when you were kids?
No, like half an hour ago.
This is when they really started to get the Soulless Sam humor down. It's coming in buckets, and you are grateful for it to help cast aside Dean. Oh my god, this guy's getting irritating, and I know he's going to get even more irritating in the next episode. Dean's constant questioning and hammering down of, do you even want your soul? Do you even want your soul? Do you even want your soul? Is going to get worse and worse as we keep going on. There's something to be said that when Sam doesn't want his soul back, I think it's purely because he can't stand Dean constantly talking about it. But on this level though, this is a pretty funny episode. Have some of the jokes aged well? Oh god, not at all. Dean has a couple in this that are terrible. Not even funny in the funny sake of they being funny back then. They're just really bad. Not trying to be any kind of forward aforementioned. I'm literally just saying that we had bad jokes back then, and these are bad jokes. They're just bad jokes.
Dean, did you service Oberon, King of the
Funny
Fairies?
enough though, there is a good one at the end of the episode. Sort of. But either way, I think that this is actually a pretty funny episode, considering it takes you for a loop of what it actually is meant to be originally. It goes from an X-Files parody episode to this very funny and very strange fairy episode. There's a lot of really well done humor in it. The action is pretty funny. The fight scenes at the end are pretty decent as well, except for the fact that you never really find out what the guy that Dean can see is. It's some sort of subsidiary to the fairy leprechaun system. He's the collector, I'm gonna take a guess, but you never really find out who this dude is. But overall, it's a pretty solid episode. Is it standout? No. Was it memorable enough for me to remember it? No, but it's still quite a chuckle.
Dean.
What the hell?
Oh, that's Dean. Sam, they brought your brother back.
So in the end, I'm going to give this episode a 4 out of 7. The fact that they got a Star Trek alumni on this episode was probably pretty big for a lot of the guys who worked on this show. Because obviously the Doc is really well recognized in the sci-fi circles. You may be wondering why I don't say his name. It's because I don't remember what it is. I'm not a big Trekkie guy. But those are my thoughts. What do you guys have to say about this episode?
I loved almost everything in this episode. The humor and the silliness. I love Soulless Sam pretending to be a real boy and trying to act empathetic. I love the homage to the X-Files in the opening card. And the first half with the brothers believing that the aliens were behind the abductions. This episode introduces plot points of Sam's soullessness and also introduces beings who seem powerful enough to contend with angels and demons any day. I say everything was great except for the final confrontation was a bit underwhelming. I mean, he dropped some salt and read a book. This episode has some really funny stuff with Soulless Sam, but other than that, it's not really much to say. Trying to make that season's villains look bigger than the previous villains just by saying so and not showing it. The leprechaun was obviously referencing the mother of all. I am telling you every time I've seen this in any show that the season brings up ends up being terrible. It's like using the phrase "as you know" in movies that instantly tells you that they're going to be bad. Thank you, Nostalgia Critic, for that. And that's the biggest problem with the episode and this season as a whole. It's all talk and no payoff, resulting in a very boring and cheesing in every wrong way episode. What was even accomplished in this filler? We're 9 episodes in and the main plot has barely been focused on. That is something that is going to slightly alter in the latter half. The first half of season 6 is a mess, admittedly, but the second half really actually fixes itself. I was even surprised. Clap Your Hands is personally one of my favorite episodes of the season. The humor with Soulless Sam is especially fantastic. What a douchebag. Jared must have had so much fun with this version of Sam. Also, the writers are setting up Sam's decision to reject his soul in the next episode. X-Files themed episode credits an homage in this episode, with a twist being the fairies are the villains, not aliens. This is the only episode to use fairies in the whole season. The line where Dean shouts out, "Fight the fairies, you fight those fairies," was improvised by Jensen. That actually makes sense. I'll admit I actually was disappointed by the X-Files, like the lacking bit of it, but admittedly the fact that it is about fairies was quite funny. Them thinking it was UFOs was actually quite funny, and Dean comes back and says, "I had a close encounter and I won." That bit always makes me laugh, is when Sam is fighting the leprechaun and spills salt and he has to stop and count it, and Sam just said, "Why didn't I just do that earlier?" That is actually also a very good, funny joke in this episode. It's one of the funniest ones. Hilarious from start to finish, with exceptional supporting characters and a well-told story about fairies posing as aliens. Brilliant. I like that twist. While I was disappointed with the X-Files theme not really being as well used, I did like that it was kind of a pull of the rug, essentially, with the fairies. Not sure about anyone else, but this is one of the funniest episodes of the series, and the reason why is I love how Soulless Sam reacts to Dean getting abducted. That Dean getting charged with doing a hate crime and screaming "fight the fairies" all sticks in my mind and is the first thing I think about when talking about this season. Maybe it just lines up with my sense of humor. Also, that twist that it's just fairies and not aliens is a convenient cover-up. It's actually pretty smart. It's kind of how the vampires use Twilight to easier to trick people, and I wonder if the head boss was as powerful or tricky as he believes. So refreshing in a season that forgot how in too many episodes. It's a great X-Files homage, and Soulless Sam is at his funniest, yes, especially in the scene where they interview the fairy expert woman. He refers to her decor as Sedona, Arizona, crapped in here. I also enjoyed Sam's complete lack of empathy with Dean, referring to his time in Fairyland with Dean, "Did you service Oberon, King of the Fairies?" and giving up searching for Dean after a whole hour and a half to seduce Sparrow. The only thing missing in this episode is Mitch Pileggi. Too bad they didn't have him guest star in this episode. And yeah, considering it was an X-Files episode and you had an X-Files alumni in the season, it was kind of a missed opportunity, but I don't know really what they could have done considering the Samuel character was just being driven into the ground at this point. Clap your hands if you believe it's such a fun episode. I was a big X-Files fan back in the day, so seeing all the references in the intro was entertaining. Having the guy from Star Trek, I just can't remember his name, neither could I, as the villain was great. He did a great job. And who could forget Jensen screaming "fight the fairies" from the back of the police car, which I guess was unscripted. Just a bizarre but fun episode written by Bette Edlund, one of my faves of the entire series.
Thank you guys for your comments, and now we've got episode 10, Caged Heat. Now, I believe this is the one about the pizza man. I like this episode. Now make sure to give me your guys' comments about that episode in the comments below, and I'll read those off in the next review. If you like this video, leave a like, and if you're interested in more, subscribe. We're almost halfway through season 6. I'll see you guys next week.
What am I supposed to do?
Fight the fairies! You fight those fairies!